Hi guys, Deirdre here, All Things Art and Books. How you doing? Well, today's video, as you'll see from the thumbnail, is a watercolour painting of a seahorse. Now, it had originally started off, I just wanted to do a drawing, but as I started it, I decided, no, I want to, underwater things can be so colourful, and I decided to go ahead with watercolour paint. So I used a combination of watercolour paint and also watercolour ink. I haven't actually got a title for this piece, but it is a seahorse, watercolour seahorse, underwater, added some bubbles at the end. So anyway, hope you enjoy the time lapse guys, and I'll see you next week. So just getting the outline of the seahorse sketched in here. I was originally going to go for a drawing, but it ended up a painting, but this is the outline just going in now. Starting actually this time with some watercolour pencils just to get a base down, just using them dry, and then I'll go over them with water. At this stage I'm still using graphite pencil. I had this idea of doing graphite with in a combination with the watercolour, but that I realised that still wasn't going to work, so I continued working with the watercolour pencils, and as time went on moved from the watercolour pencils onto the paint, the watercolour paint itself and the ink. But it was really this whole process just grew organically. I wasn't really thinking where I was going to go or what I was going to do with it. I just let it evolve naturally, and sometimes that's what you got to do with your paintings. At this stage, I'd decided I was just going to go all out with the watercolour paints from here on in. And as you can see at this stage, a lot of people don't realise every painting, or most paintings, will go through a really ugly stage. And a lot of people give up at that stage. They think it's just not good. And a lot of the time it's not the case. It's not that the painting's not good. It's not that the drawing's not good. It's just simply not finished yet, and you've still got a lot more to do. And you just keep going and keep going and keep going, and hopefully it works out. But for a long time during the process of painting, it can be really ugly, and you've just got to start enjoying the process and enjoying the whole act of painting rather than just getting to the end result. And of course, when it starts to come together, it's brilliant, but just enjoy the whole process and seeing what actually evolves out of it. At this stage I'm starting to get some mid-tones in. I've got the lighter tones in first and now going for the mid-tones. Still it's getting a bit more detailed, but nowhere near the detail that I want to get. But detail is always held for the end. Don't try to go too detailed too quick. I have made that mistake so many times and you just end up getting frustrated. Just start off with larger brushes and work to medium brushes and then to smaller ones, and I find that's the best way that it works for me. I am starting to add a bit more detail here, especially on the seahorse himself, and dropping some ink now in at this stage. Gold ink, I love that gold ink, it gives your work a real shimmer. The lighter bits that I'm adding here on top of the Seahorse is actually with white gouache paint. It's basically watercolour, but it's opaque in colour, so you're able to go over the top of darker colours, and it's much easier for me than trying to leave bits of white paper and masking pieces of white paper out. I find just go over it with the gouache and make life a lot easier for yourself. Just dropping some more ink in here, just dropping it in with the paper wet and let it do its own thing. I used 3 colours of ink in this. I used phthalo blue, quinacridone magenta and gold ink, and just let it do its thing and let it spread out onto wet paper. This stage I'm actually going in with just a damp brush and lifting off some of that colour. It gives that kind of effect of a mistiness or a murkiness. It's very, very soft, and it just lifts off some of the colour and produces that kind of ethereal feel that I really like. Glazing some sunbeams through the water. I'm using lemon yellow and again a little bit of gouache to create the sunbeams, and just using the paint very, very thin so that you're just literally glazing the colour over it and seeing the base colours shining through. Just starting to add the bubbles in now. Bubbles are, some people get scared of doing bubbles. It's basically just putting in it's a circle, different size circles, and you put in a dark colour at the top with a lighter colour at the bottom, blend it out, and then add a highlight top and bottom, and that's it. And it always looks like water as long as you let your background shine through it. So just kept adding bubbles and a few splashes, added some little dots in between the bubbles to make them look like really, really tiny bubbles. And that was it for this one. I'll see you next week.